क्लास नहीं ले रहे हैं. In the last period, my dear students, we have studied about the SN1 and SN2 reaction. This is the diagram. I can represent it for our SN2 reaction. Here you can see that this is your this is nothing but the representation of the alcohol group. So here you can see this is your alcohol. This is nothing but your OH group. This is OH. This OH actually attacks on this carbon. So when OH attacks this carbon, these three hydrogen you can easily see, my dear students. These three hydrogen which you can see here, these three hydrogen start moving. They change their position and they turn out to be the spokes of a tire. There will be a bond formed between the OH and this carbon, here this kind of bond, and this bond which we are expecting, this particular bond is being broken. This particular bond which you can see here, this bond I am talking about, this bond, this one, is being broken, and that is why it is shown with the red dotted lines. So this is what it is known as the intermediate state. Not intermediate, but we'll call it as a transition state. Let's call it transition state. This is transition. And this transition has how many atoms bonded with the carbon? If you look at, you will realize that there are 5 atoms. There are 5 atoms bonded with the, this is transition state. And in this transition state, you can see that there are 5 atoms bonded with carbon. So as these 5 atoms are bonded with this transition state, my dear students, then you can have the final product, which is your alcohol. This is your alcohol. And this Cl minus ion leaves as a leaving group. This is your leaving group. So it was a revision of is the leaving group. So hope, my dear students, you understand this. Same way, yesterday we have even considered the difference between the SN1 and SN2, and then we came to know that in case of the SN2 reaction, we have this order: methyl is greater than primary, is greater than secondary, is greater than tertiary. So why do we follow this order? Let us try to understand using this. See, this is what it is, the methyl. This nucleophile, which is your OH minus, going to attack. Now for this OH minus to attack here on this carbon, this is the carbon that we have. I'm talking about this carbon. It has only 3 hydrogen available. So this nucleophile attack is very easy. You can easily understand that the attack is truly very easy. Green color. So here as far as this thing is concerned, you can see that the attack is very easy. You can easily understand this. Attack is very easy. Now here there is one, this is ethyl, that is primary carbocation, or this is primary alkyl halide. When it comes to the primary alkyl halide, the nucleophile can attack, but attack is little difficult. There is a small difficulty in attack. Small difficulty. As compared to, there is a small difficulty as compared to the methyl group, or you can say methyl alkyl halide or methyl haloalkane. So this is what it happens, and there is a small difficulty. As you move this direction, as you move in the direction of this, if you are moving in this direction, my dear students, moving left to right, what happens? Difficulty for the attack increases. You can see here that as you move in this direction, my dear students, if you are moving in the direction of this, if you are moving in this direction, if you are moving in this direction, I actually made mistake. If you are moving in this direction, my dear students, if you are moving in this direction, you can see here, then the difficulty increases slowly. Here there is only one methyl group. Here you can see two methyl group. So difficulty increases. Two methyl group. That is very difficult. But my dear students, if we think of this, here we have three methyl groups. Three methyl groups. And thus, attack is almost impossible. So please try to understand what I want to tell you once again. If you are moving in this direction, my dear students, you can see here in this direction, what we find is, attack is very easy for the methyl group. You can easily understand that for this methyl group, attack is very easy. Here, small difficulty as compared to the methyl haloalkane. Here, if you look two methyl group, attack is very difficult. But here, if you look at this, three methyl group, an attack is almost impossible. So, as if you go for SN2 type of mechanism, you will realize that going left to right or going as the number of methyl group increases on the alkyl halide, the difficulty level increases, and that is why we follow this order. Please remember this order, my dear students. It is very important for you to understand this. Please understand this, that for when it comes to the SN1 type of reaction, the order is tertiary is greater than secondary is greater than primary is greater than methyl. But when it comes to the SN1 type of reaction, methyl has got the maximum ability to react, then primary, then secondary, and then tertiary. The attack on tertiary is almost difficult, and that is how, my dear students, we can understand the order. For methyl, attack is easy, small difficulty as compared to the methyl group. Two methyl groups, so attack is difficult. But when it comes to the three methyl group, attack becomes almost impossible. And this is how, my dear students, you can understand the difference between the SN1 and SN2 reaction. I hope, my dear students, if you have any doubt, you can ask me. Do you have any doubt? Is there anything which you cannot understand? If is it so, you can ask me, or else we can move to the next screen share. कुछ पूछना है बच्चों तो आप पूछ सकते हैं, और अदरवाइज फिर हम लोग अगले पार्ट पे चलते हैं. कुछ पूछना चाहेंगे? ओके, अगर आप कुछ पूछना नहीं चाहते, प्लीज ये थोड़ा देख लीजिए कि आपकी स्क्रीन पे क्या दिखाई दे रहा है आपको, और मुझे बताइए. कैन यू टेल मी व्हाट इज देयर ऑन योर स्क्रीन, डियर स्टूडेंट्स? What you can see on your screen, can you tell me?
In the year 1937.
Okay.
In the year 1937.
Yeah, this is what I really wanted you to look at. Okay, let us start. In the year 1937, Edward Davis Hughes and Sir Christopher Ingold proposed the mechanism for SN2 reaction. So suppose you should know who proposed the mechanism for SN2 reaction. So the mechanism was proposed by Edward Davis Hughes and Christopher Ingold. Now next, allylic and benzylic halides show greater or higher reactivity towards SN1 mechanism. You know, we have already seen that there is a more possibility for tertiary, and then secondary, and then primary, and then methyl for SN1 mechanism. But you need to even remember that this allylic group and this benzylic group also have more possibility for SN1 mechanism. Now, what is the reason? Because carbocation produced in the first step of SN1 reaction is found to be more stable due to resonance. You can see here, these are these two structures into the allyl cation. Allyl cation is the cation where the carbon having positive charge is bonded to the sp2 hybridized carbon directly. So when it comes to the allyl cation, you can see that this double bond electron can move here, and then you will have the double bond here, and the positive charge moves to the CH2, which was involved into the double bond. So these are the two resonance structures we can understand, and due to these two structures, the possibility of allylic halide is more as compared to the other cation, and even benzylic is even more because you get more number of resonance structures. Suppose you have a benzylic carbocation, then this electron goes to the double bond between this, then this bond electron moves here, and the positive charge from this carbon move to first this carbon, then as the electron come here, the positive charge moves to the para position, then when this electron come here, the positive charge move to the ortho position, and this is how more number of resonance structures are formed, and it shows more stability. So my dear students, if we really want to tell the order for the carbocation for SN1 mechanism, we can say that benzylic will have the highest one. Let us write it here. We can say that benzylic carbocation is more than benzylic carbocation is more than allyl cation. This allylic cation is more than tertiary. This tertiary carbocation is more than secondary. And this secondary carbocation is more than primary. And this primary carbocation is more than methyl. Here even, my dear students, you can easily say that the methyl carbocation generally do not undergo, or methyl alkyl halide never follows SN1 mechanism. As you have seen it for the SN2 mechanism, tertiary carbocation never follow. Same way, my dear students, here we can say that methyl halide carb never follows the SN1 mechanism. So this was all about the SN1 and SN2 mechanism. But in SN1 and SN2 mechanism, we have some or the other way studied about these things. We have seen that in SN1 mechanism, racemization takes place, and in SN2 mechanism, inversion takes place. So for that, we need to understand one very special aspect, and this aspect is generally known as the stereochemical aspect. So let us try to understand, my dear students, what are these stereochemical aspects that we can look for to study this inversion and racemization. So to study the inversion and racemization, my dear students, we will study about the stereochemical aspects, and let us have a look at that for the stereochemical aspects. So stereochemical aspects of nucleophilic substitution reaction. Now to understand the stereochemical aspects, my dear students, we need to understand so many things. So let us start studying it well. In order to learn stereochemical aspects of the nucleophilic substitution reaction, my dear students, we should learn some basic stereochemical principles and notations. What are these basic stereochemical principles and notation? First, we should learn optical activity, then we should learn chirality, then we should learn retention and inversion, and then we should learn racemization. There was a scientist, his name was William Nicol. In the year he was born into 1768 and died in 1851, was the first scientist to develop a prism. Think, here we are talking about prism that produce a plane of polarized light. Now what is this plane of polarized light? Let us try to understand. You know, generally when we look at the light goes in all directions. But sometimes we need a light which goes in a single direction. You might have seen some pointer which shows, or you might have heard about the laser light. This laser light goes in only single direction. It do not scatter. It don't go in everywhere. Suppose you start the bulb, then the light of bulb goes everywhere. Suppose you start a tube light, then the light of tube light goes everywhere. But if you use a laser beam, if you use a laser battery, then the light goes in a single direction. So for that, the special kind of prism is used, and that prism was developed by William Nicol, and such prism is known as the Nicol prism. To understand about the optical activity, my dear students, we should know about this Nicol prism. Now what is optical activity? Some organic compounds or inorganic compound, whatever may be, when passed a plane of polarized light, through them, they rotate the plane of polarized light to certain angle and in certain direction. So this is what I want to tell you, my dear students, once again, that when it comes to the various organic compound, when it comes to the various inorganic compound, what happens? These organic and inorganic compounds, they share some, they rotate the light, not share, I'm sorry, they rotate the light, but this light should be, you know, this light should be directed, this light should be in one direction, and they rotate the light, and that is why they are optically active. To understand that, let us study an arrangement of various apparatus, and how do we come to know about optical activity. So next question is, how do we determine optical activity? To determine the optical activity, a compound, following arrangements are made. You can see here, this is the light source. This light source produces the light moving in all directions. So the direction of light, it's shown in all directions from light source. Now here we have just learn about a prism. This prism is called Nicol prism. When the light, which was moving in all direction, is passed through the Nicol prism, this light turns into a single direction. This light, which moves now in only a single direction, is known as the plane of polarized light. So by passing the normal light through the Nicol prism, we get a plane of polarized light. We use a polarized light for the next step. Now in the next step, we have a tube which is known as the sample tube. This sample tube is sometimes called polarimeter. For this sample tube, sometimes we use the word, for this sample tube, my dear students, sometimes we use the word polarimeter. So this sample tube sometimes is known as the polarimeter tube. This is the length of the sample tube L. In this sample tube, we can fill the crystalline powder of the substance whose optical activity we want to check. If it is liquid, we can fill the pure liquid. If it is, or even we can take the solution of that particular substance into suitable solvent. Now this plane of polarized light passes through this sample tube. And there are two possibilities. Either the light which was going in this direction remains the same. The light which was going in this direction, the light which was going in this direction remains the same, my dear students. It does not change at all. So it remains, vertical. When it remains vertical, what happens? The substance is not optically active. So this is the ideal position for it. And when the substance has got the ideal position, my dear students, we cannot see it, or we cannot see it working in a right direction. So a substance, if the light remains in the same position, the substance is not optically active. But suppose the light is moving in a particular direction. So with the black dots, I have shown the ideal position, but suppose the light is being changed, the direction of light is changed to a certain angle, and you can see it with the green line. I have shown you the actual position of plane of polarized light. So the light is rotated, and it is rotated in this direction. You can see, my dear students, easily that the light is rotated in this direction. So it is the clockwise direction. You can call it as a clockwise direction. So light is rotated into the clockwise direction. It may be rotated in anti-clockwise direction too. So this is what we can see. We are the observer, and we can see it on the analyzer screen. On the analyzer screen, we can easily identify whether the light is being rotated or not. If the light is rotated, we can say that the substance field inside the sample tube is optically active. If light is not rotated, we can say that the substance inside the sample tube or polarimeter is not optically active. Now let us read what I have written. To determine the optical activity from the light source, we get light moving in all directions. We know scientist William Nicol developed a prism that is called the Nicol prism. It produces a plane of polarized light. So light from light source is passed through Nicol prism, and it is turned into plane of polarized light. The plane of polarized light passed through the sample tube. The sample tube has either the solid powdered compound or solution of compound in suitable solvent. In solid state, compound must be pure. Remember this. When light passes through the sample tube, the light is rotated by angle theta. You can see that I have shown you the angle of theta. So when we observe, we can see that the light is being rotated for the angle of theta. So the light is rotated at theta angle. That is what you can easily understand. As the light is rotated to a theta angle, we can easily understand this angle theta, which I have shown here. This theta is angle of rotation, and this theta, which is the angle of rotation, we have got it. Angle of rotation theta is determined by the analyzer. So analyzer has a ability to determine the angle, and analyzer even decide whether the rotation took place into the clockwise or anti-clockwise. If ideal position of light is equal to actual position of light, theta is going to be 0, and thus the compound is optically inactive. But if ideal position of light is not equal to actual position of light, angle of rotation would be theta and compound is optically active. So this is how, my dear students, we can determine the optical activity. If the plane of polarized light is rotated anti-clockwise, the compound is said to be levorotatory. It is also represented with small l, or it is represented with the negative sign. If plane of polarized light is rotated clockwise, then compound is said to be dextrorotatory, which is represented by small d or positive sign. Temperature is noted down for the experiment. Whenever we determine the optical activity, at that time what is the temperature that is being noted. Wavelength of light used for the experiment is even noted down. So the light source what we use, from which we get the plane of polarized light, for that plane of polarized light we generally note down the wavelength of light. Generally for this experiment, for determine the optical activity, generally the D line of sodium lamp. Remember, my dear students, generally the D line of sodium lamp is used. So generally the wavelength of 589 nanometer D line of sodium lamp is used, otherwise wavelength is specified. So whenever we decide the wavelength for D line of sodium lamp is lambda is equal to 589 nanometer. This is D line. This is D line. So D line of sodium lamp is generally responsible for orange yellow color of the common sodium vapor street light. So generally what we see on the street light, the D line what is used for optical activity finding is the light that is generally found into the sodium vapor lamp which are present on the street lights. To calculate specific rotation, following is the formula used. You can see this formula. So this formula is used. Now this theta, lambda and t. So whenever we determine the specific rotation, you know, this is what it is a symbol for the specific rotation. So this, when we write this specific rotation, with this specific rotation, the temperature and wavelength is also written. Now we have theta. So what is theta? Theta is the angle of rotation of the plane polarized light. Theta is the angle of rotation which we have seen here. This is your theta. This is your theta we are talking about. So we will note the theta from the analyzer and we will use it to calculate the specific rotation. Then we have L. Let us understand what is L. Your L is the length of sample tube. Remember, L is the length of sample tube. This length of sample tube is generally shown in decimeter, and decimeter is equal to 1 decimeter is equal to 10 centimeter. So length is shown into generally decimeter. A standard polarimeter sample tube is generally 1.0 decimeter. This is 1 dm. So it is generally 1 dm, or we can say it is of 10 centimeter. So generally we take it 10 centimeter length. D represents the density of pure substance kept into the sample tube. If it is solid, we can know the density. If it is liquid, we can know the density. And sometimes if we use the solution of the substance, then we write the concentration of sample in 100 ml. Remember this. We generally use the concentration which is based on the 100 ml solution. or if some other way concentration is given, we will turn it into the 100 ml solution concentration. That means the concentration of substance present in total 100 ml solution. Unit for specific rotation, please remember, unit for specific rotation is degree centimeter square per gram. Unit for specific rotation is degree centimeter square per gram. Now you will understand the exact idea. A sample of pure S2-butanol was placed in 10 centimeter polarimeter tube using a D line of a sodium lamp. The observed rotation at 20 degrees centigrade was plus 104 degree. The density of this compound is 0.805 gram per ml. What is this specific rotation? So what data do we have? We have that theta is equal to 104 degree. We know that the length is 1 dm, and we know that the density is given as a 0.805 gram per ml. But this ml we can write centimeter cube, so I have written it as a 0.0805 gram per ml. Now you can see that we have written the formula, and let us put the value. For theta we can write plus 104 degree. For length we can write 1, and for density we can write 0.805. Now see, I have tried to explain you the unit. So degree divided by centimeter multiplied by gram per centimeter cube. So this centimeter cube and centimeter turns into centimeter square. You can see here that turns into centimeter square. This degree remains degree, and this gram turns out to be gram or per gram. And thus the specific rotation for this problem is plus 129 degree centimeter square per gram. This can be written in this form even. Now they use here the word neat. What does this neat means? So this neat refers that the liquid S2-butanol has not been diluted. It was used pure. It was not diluted, and that is why the word neat is used. Now let's look at the second question. Calculate the observed rotation of a solution of 0.5245 gram of S1-aminophenylethane diluted to volume of 10 ml with methanol at 20 degrees centigrade using D line of a sodium lamp and 1 decimeter tube length. Specific rotation is also given minus 30 degrees centimeter square per gram. So what is the data we have obtained? You can see here, my dear students, that we have written D line. That means the lambda is 589. We have noted down the temperature even. The temperature given in the question is 20 degrees centigrade. This value is given in the question. We need to calculate theta. We are given the concentration, which is 0.5245 gram in 10 ml. But we need in 100 ml. So in 10 ml we have this. Then in 100 ml we will have 5.245 gram. And the length is given 1 dm. So we have this formula. From this formula, theta, specific rotation, is equal to theta divided by L into C. Therefore, theta is equal to specific rotation multiplied by L multiplied by C. We'll put minus 30 for specific rotation. For L, we'll write 1. For C, we'll write 5.245. And ultimately, the answer what we get is 157 degree. So we can easily calculate such problem. Now note, only chiral compound, please remember,